Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Select Board meeting of Thursday, January 30th. Looks like we have a full board here tonight. We have Denise, Kevin, Roger, Alec, and myself. And as always, we're going to start with a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and before we move into it, I just wanted to do a moment of silence for Josephine Pinto and the Sweeney Pinto family. As I'm sure you know, there was such a tragedy about 2 weeks ago, the loss of a 6-year-old girl. So I wanted to have a quick moment of silence for Josephine. Okay, thank you. We don't have any appointments, resignations, retirements, so I guess we'll move into minutes. We have minutes for January 8th and 16th. Has everyone got a chance to look these over?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marson.
I make a motion we accept the minutes of January 8th.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marson.
on the minutes of January 16th, there is a line that is crossed out in the minutes for us to sign, number 3 of the conversation with the fishing game that wasn't crossed out in the packet when we got it for discussion. What is it?
You're talking about page 5? Page 5.
Page 5.
The 320 CMR.
In the packet that we had was not crossed out. I don't know if there was a change or if there was a reason for that.
Page 5 on the minutes for the 16th. So why don't we just double check if that's correct, and then we'll revisit them next meeting. Okay. Thank you, Roger. Okay, after new business, discussion and or vote to, actually, I'm sorry. There's no licenses and permits tonight. Do we have any announcements?
I have no announcements this evening.
Anyone?
Nope.
Nope. And we're going to move on to discussion and or vote on setting the date of the annual town election. Which for some reason I thought we did this, but we definitely didn't, so.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marson.
I believe that if we didn't vote on this by the January 1st, that it would automatically be set as the last Saturday in April.
Correct. Yeah. We have Jill, the town clerk, here. She wants to mention this. Yeah, we should be on.
Jill Supp, the town clerk, requesting to set the local election for Saturday, April 26, 2025. It did come as a request from a few people in my office to limit the election hours from 8 to 3 for your consideration. Many cities and towns are limiting the hours of their local election to afford more time to count for write-ins after the election. And so I said I would put forth the request for your consideration, and also for your consideration, the location of the local election is normally at the school. I did get confirmation today that they're intending that the parking lot across the street will be ready in time. And so just at your pleasure if you wanted to have it at the school or have it here.
I'll give my personal opinion. I think we should probably stick to the middle school for this one until everything's maybe complete out there and we're sure of it. That's just my opinion. I'll open it up to the board for that.
Mr. Chair, question for Jill. It's definitely going to be done?
Well, I personally can't
Definitely.
guarantee that.
Mike, do you know?
It should be done, but
Do we have enough parking otherwise?
well, we have that whole parking lot over there, and it's a town election, so it's not like people come in droves.
And it's not a Saturday, so that parking lot, which is typically occupied by employees, wouldn't be.
So I would think it would be substantially easier for everybody working the polls and as well as everyone in your office to do it here, correct?
Yes, that is one factor. It would be easier for us to hold the election here.
And Mike, what are your thoughts on that as far as, do you think the parking would be sufficient even if that parking lot across the street?
I do. I think there'll be plenty of room, and there's plenty of room in here to run a town election.
I do agree with that as well.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Marcy?
Mike, the town hall's not open on that Saturday, so none of that parking would be taken up by employees anyway, right?
Right. Yep.
So that would be, that whole parking lot would be available to anybody that wanted to come vote. As far as the time goes, I'm not necessarily opposed to having it end at 3 o'clock, but I think we might want to give more notice as to changing the time that the ending of voting would be at 3 as opposed to at 5.
More notice for a meeting for people to come voice their opinion.
Yeah, and there may be some, I don't know, unless you have some idea of how many people vote between 3 and 5 or.
I don't have those numbers, no.
Right, so there may be some people who, that's the only time that they can't come vote. I
Mhm.
want to cut the voting short, especially if we're going to hold it here as opposed to at a remote site.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, good.
through here. My preference would be for the longer hours, just because I would prefer to err on the side of more availability for people to exercise their right to vote.
Mhm.
While I understand it's inconvenience to vote, to come a couple hours later. That's the beginning of spring season for a lot of sports. Parents are very busy in athletic fields. So I want to allow more time for folks to be able to fit that into their schedule for the day.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the location?
I'm indifferent.
Way to take a stand.
I probably would prefer here if we feel pretty confident that the parking lot's over there ready, just because we have had problems with conflicts with the sports in the back of the middle
Yeah.
school before, so yeah.
With that, I'm okay either way. I just want to make sure people know about it
Yeah.
ahead of time, that they don't go there thinking they're going to go to the middle school.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Snyder.
I mean, we have this beautiful new town hall. I mean, what are we talking about here? Like, I think we should try it here.
Yeah.
Rip the Band-Aid off and see how it goes.
Yeah, and maybe for this year, we could put a tripod sign, something in front of the middle school to say voting being held at town hall, before people pull into the parking lot so they can see that.
The big wrong way sign.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good idea. All right.
Okay, so,
So, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marson.
do we need to take a vote on this?
Yes, do we need to take a vote on the entire timeline? That was my question.
Yes.
For the whole timeline here, so
What do you mean that? No.
for the deadlines or just the?
No, just to set the election.
Okay, so to set the election date, time, and location.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marson.
I make a motion that we set the annual town election for April 26, 2025 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the town hall.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, excellent.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay, next up, we have discussion and/or vote on terms consideration agreement regarding the easement for the Rich property located at 77 West Main Street and 0 West Main Street on Route 123.
So, town meeting voted to give you the right to negotiate an easement. And now it's just a matter of whether you ask the developer for a proposal of what they want to pay each year for that easement and how long you want to grant that easement for.
Okay, happy with Mr. Rich?
Yes, thank you very much. It's no longer the Rich property, so we'll call it the,
Former.
yeah, right. I think the North Town Properties LLC is dealing with that. As far as the easement, I thought that the town granted the easement, perpetual easement on that. And I'm not so sure that there was a time limit. So I think the easement would go in perpetuity, or until, it is, remember with we talked about licensing, and that's the reason why we went for the town hall for the meeting, so it's like a perpetual easement, and I'm not, as far as, my suggestion would be just to put the restrictions that they have to maintain it, and keep it open to the public forever.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Then Mr. Marcy?
didn't we vote on this easement already?
Yes,
And,
I believe we did.
You voted to support the article to grant the easement.
and at town meeting, they voted for the easement?
That's correct.
They voted to give you the right to issue an easement. So now it's just a matter of, do you want some compensation for that easement?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marcy?
do we have many other easements in town that we receive much compensation from?
I don't believe we received compensation for, I could be wrong. I don't think so.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
Yeah, I think the majority of it is maintenance.
And also,
Actually, Paul could probably speak to that if he, no? Okay, sorry.
and also, are there any easements that the town is asking for from other landowners as well that we wouldn't want to have to pay compensation for?
I can't think of any that we have or that we're given.
Yeah, to me, this one's pretty straightforward. I mean, I think,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marcy,
I make a motion that we grant an easement for the, what are we calling that property now?
the former, oh, no, the,
North Town Properties is. would be the
That we
owner.
grant an easement for the Northtown properties in perpetuity.
Mr. Chair,
with the stipulation, any stipulations as far as maintenance?
I was gonna say that they maintain it. I was gonna say, so it's sort of an even exchange in my mind if we give the easement, as long as they're maintaining that piece of property. So,
I agree.
yeah.
So is that?
I would move to amend my motion
To include,
to include the maintenance of the easement.
okay.
That the other part, that the easement requester is responsible for maintenance, to be clear. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rich.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We'll be in touch and we'll work out the details about that. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
number
you.
3, this is what everybody's here for, I think. A special town meeting regarding Elm Street. Who's up?
Everybody. Paul, are you gonna come up here or stay there? So, the Water and Sewer Department has gone out to bid, and they have a contract to sign for their work on Elm Street. And as you know, we have a $3.5 million Mass Works grant that is dependent on that work being done by what time in 2026? Do you remember, Paul?
Well, the grant needs to be finished by the end of June of 2026.
2026, so, we thought we would be well along along the way by now, but we've been held off. And so we're looking to see if we can schedule a special town meeting to allow the water and sewer department to go out to borrow for this project. Did you want to show, if anyone has any questions about the project, I think you all know what it is.
Mr. Chair? Yeah,
Mr. Snyder?
yeah, I just kind of want a status update on the project. That'd be great.
I'll just show it up.
Yep.
There we go. There it is.
That's the slide, Mike.
It's bright enough for you? So as you know, this is the project on Elm Street, and there's a $3.5 million Mass Works grant. Water rates will pay for improvement to the water main of $2.4 million, and the remaining share is $2.5 million. This project will be done similar to the way the project was done on West Main, where betterments are assessed to the landowners along the way, and then those landowners would not have to pay the sewer tie-in fee when they tie into sewer. So that remaining share, 2.5 million, breaks out to 0.75 for 64 housing units along Elm Street and Miller Terrace, and then 47 Elm Street would be assessed a betterment of $1.75 million. And the developer, is Crunali Development and Devco North America are the two companies that are teaming up to develop the property, and they're in the process right now of seeking funding and also looking at any possibilities of TIFs that they could obtain. Right now, it's not like the typical business development where you could go to mass development and get a TIF for a commercial property. So they're looking at a different type of TIF. Paul, you want to talk on that?
Right, this is actually, the TIF they're looking for would be administered by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, so it's more geared toward residential development. Because the proposal that Devco and Crunali have told us about is primarily a residential project. We're looking at roughly, as you can see on the bottom bullet, about between 145 and 155 residential units, and on the first floor, somewhere between 10 and 20,000 square feet of commercial. So it's predominantly a residential type of proposal, and that wouldn't qualify for the typical TIFs that the town has issued in the past, such as Morel Nylon and EL Appliances. So they're in touch with the state to pursue that TIF approval. It's a different one. There's a study that needs to be done before we even approach doing a TIF agreement that the state has to approve.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chairman?
is this the only option we're looking at? Because when we looked at this before, I could have sworn there were 3 options. One was a direct line without wiring the tie-ins.
Is that on this presentation? I don't know.
I think that this presentation was just showing all of the properties being connected. But correct, in the past, we have talked about an option where it would just be going directly to that site and would not allow a connection to the residential properties.
Yeah, I remember, because I distinctly remember thinking that was the better option. So I'm surprised that we're not seeing that here today.
Can we go into a little bit more as to why the urgency and we can't wait a month to regular town meeting? Why we have to do a special town meeting in March?
It's a timing issue, particularly with the grant having to be, the grant funds need to be expended by June of 2026. So the concern is if we delay it, so right now, we do have a contractor who's accepted a bid, and right now, they've already extended it once for us. It is extended through March. If we continue it, we run the risk that they might walk away and we'd have to rebid the contract again. And the shovels really need to be in the ground by the summer in order to meet the construction deadlines.
Mr. Chair,
Good, Mr. President.
can you tell us what's changed from last year's fall town meeting till now? I don't see a huge difference from when it was taken off the warrant at last year's fall town meeting. What's different?
I don't see that much has changed at all. Actually, what has changed is...
We asked for a commitment from the developer. Did we get that?
What has changed is, I believe, with their bid process that the water and sewer did, the price did come in a little lower than this, so
Right. So did we get that commitment from the developer?
the developer is working on their financing right now.
So no?
No.
Yeah, just a straight answer. Yeah, because that was my major contention last fall, is that we don't have a commitment from the developer, so. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, yeah, to piggyback on your point, has the developer updated you as to where they are with financing, anything?
They did give us an email recently that said they're working on the financing, but they haven't, I think they're still looking at that TIF option to reduce their financing.
Do they have potential timeline for that, knowing, I'm sure they know the time is of the essence as far as the grant goes.
Right, we've made that clear to them.
And I do believe they may have, possibly, we're anticipating them covering this $2.5 million delta. Is that?
I would not recommend that they cover the entire amount, because I don't think we want the homeowners to have to pay the sewer tie-in fee. So if they'd cover at least 50% of that other portion, at least the homeowners along the street would pay a betterment, and they wouldn't have to pay the sewer tie-in fees.
So this is the question I had the last time we talked about this. If the developer is paying that 2.5 million, why would there be a fee to the homeowner? If they pay the whole thing, why would the homeowner get a fee anyways? They're getting the full amount paid.
If it's the way the bylaw is written up with the water and sewer department, if you don't pay your betterment, if you're not paying your betterment, you have to pay the sewer tie-in fees to recoup the costs that they're paying right now for the treatment facility that we have. That treatment facility's been expanded, and the few users that are on sewer right now are paying for that debt that the wastewater treatment plant has. And the more users you get on, the smaller that portion of it will be. And so as they tie in new people, if they haven't paid a betterment, they charge a sewer tie-in fee, which goes to help reduce those costs of the borrowing for the expansion of the plant.
So, I'm having a very hard time with this one because I don't really believe anything's changed here, and I would hate to lose that grant money, but
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Snyder, go
if you
ahead.
don't mind. So a couple things. The first thing is that I feel like we are straying a little bit from the agenda item, because the agenda item is specific to the town meeting and not this particular project, even though it's kind of, sort of like that. But the second part of that is, I feel like we have a lot of questions here that we'd like answered before we decide on whether or not we're gonna have a special town meeting. So maybe we could all submit some questions on, on this, because I feel like we're all in the same position of thinking we took this off it was not voted on at town meeting. And we're all kind of thinking, like, what's different, what's changed? So maybe we could get a little clarification around that and maybe take it up at the next select board meeting and then make a vote on this and maybe expand the agenda item, talk about the project itself, and then also talk about setting a special town meeting.
I agree with you 100%.
I don't want to push it off any longer. I know timing is of the essence, but I also feel like we're all a little off balance here, that we could use some more information to make a more informed decision. So,
I agree.
I agree 100%.
Thanks for reeling us in, Kevin.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
you're all welcome.
Okay, so we don't need a motion for that.
No.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Let's just get darker in here. It's crazy.
They just said it was an MBTA.
All right, it's all nice. Next up, we have the discussion and or vote on the future use of the former council on aging property located at 55 West Main Street.
All right, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to see if the board has any preference, anything that they'd want to see there. Are you concerned about just seeing to get the best bid if we rent it out, the highest rent? Or are you looking to do an RFQ where you put some more weight on nonprofits, or anything, any thoughts you have before we go out and do that?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marson?
this may be straying a little bit from the
That's all right. I'll make sure you don't go too far.
Where do we stand with National Grid on the property, looking to get an easement from them?
We're still working on that with them. It's National Grid, so it takes a long time.
So,
We missed that from the projects.
Mr. Chair, I think, we're looking at what are we doing with the property in the meantime. It's going to take a little while for National Grid, as we expect. And I think it's, what does everybody think might be the best use short term instead of it just sitting there? If it makes sense to let someone use it, maintain it, whatever, or at least get some revenue out of it for the meantime, and then once that easement is settled, then we can make a decision at that point.
Are we able to do anything short term, or is it?
Well, that'll depend on who wants to use it. And I don't think we have to be that concerned right now, short term, about making a lot of money, but it's a benefit to have someone in the building.
At least paying the electric share.
Offsets the overhead.
I mean, right now, we've shut the water off and, there's not a lot of cost, but still, it's better to have someone in there maintaining.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Marson?
Mike, have you had a lot of interest in the building?
I have, from nonprofits.
Mostly from nonprofits looking for a donation of the building?
I believe they'd be looking. I do tell them that it could be short term, so if you want a building that you can use, but not, I wouldn't spend money renovating.
So we could do as is, you know, annual lease.
Yeah, as it is, you're responsible for everything.
Well, not-
Mr. Chair,
All right, I'll get it when he says.
sorry. I thought we hadn't decided yet if we're gonna sell it or lease it, or what we're gonna do with it. Is that not correct?
Yeah, we haven't decided.
Okay, so you're looking to just lease it for the short term, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, if someone needs space short-term, one of the charities, until we get easements from National Grid that would allow us to have access to our water tower and salt shed and back, we'd have a tough time selling it. Plus, we have to have provisions for all the equipment that the school department has in that garage behind the old senior center before we sell the property. So it could be a while before we'd be able to sell it.
Could we, and is there precedence of being able to share the lease amongst a couple of different nonprofits that they don't need a full week worth of use, right? Have 2 or 3 of them, a couple days each.
Yeah, I'll let you know who's interested and see what we can do.
Yeah, to get a sense for how much they need to use it, then we could probably assess when we have a shared lease arrangement.
Maybe we could call it the Norton nonprofit building.
The nonprofit center.
The nonprofit center, and have
And
many
that's it.
different nonprofits use it, because I know, for example, like the Girl Scouts are always looking for space, and they end up using the media center or something like that. But if we could create something where it's an available space for any nonprofit that wants to use it, that might be a pretty cool idea.
Case of cookies and
Yeah.
Next, we have the discussion of vote to declare the police department's 2001 Ford E350 van as surplus.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rich?
make a motion that we vote to declare the police department's 2001 Ford E350 van as surplus.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there is one thing under other business, not anticipated. Something came up today, and I'll let, I believe Roger's going to go through this.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Marson?
So it's come to my attention that there's going to be some action taken about a piece of property on Hill Street that the planning board has voted on, and I'd like for us to be able to discuss that for a little bit here this evening.
Yeah, do you want to read what came in, why this is urgent?
So anyways, there's a company, Premier Fence, that has put in a proposal to the planning board to put their business in on Hill Street, and it's gone to the planning board, and it was voted down at the planning board. And I believe that they're going to court next week about it, and I would like us to have a discussion about it and possibly take a vote to support the action
The action,
of Premier Fence to talk about whether we think that it's a reasonable proposal or not.
so we didn't vote on this before, but I believe the Traffic Safety Committee presented it to us, right? And they approved it?
So before we get any further into it, I'd just like to make sure that it's okay for us to talk about it, because I just found out about it.
I guess I'm not sure. Are you asking us to kind of override what the planning board has decided?
Absolutely not. What I just want to do is I just want to discuss it and maybe amongst ourselves come up with either support or non-support of the project.
I guess it's not our role as select board to do that. It's the planning board role.
would you want to have an exec session with representatives from the planning board and our attorney to get an understanding of where this case is?
I think that might be a good idea,
Yeah.
rather than discussing it where we could end up affecting the town's negotiating position.
Yeah, the reason I allowed this is because there was a request of the select board to write an endorsement letter, I believe from the traffic safety committee. So that's why I allowed this during the, yeah, it wasn't Premier Fence didn't reach out and ask us to do this.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have enough information to be able to do that without being able to talk to the planning board and the folks that made the decisions and why.
Yeah, we've discussed this project a few times here.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, right.
I believe there was a letter of support from the traffic committee that we received at some point. Is that correct? Do we have that? Anything like that from the traffic safety committee?
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that,
No.
but
I don't know if it was a letter more than they supported it. It was unanimous.
I know that they took a vote on the project, and so before I go any further, I just want to make sure that I'm not overstepping just even talking about it.
Yeah, so I think that might be correct as far as we don't want to get ahead of any litigation.
right, because that's where it's heading, right? It's sort of
Yeah, it's
imminent legislation, which we also have to be very careful about discussing, even though it's not in litigation now.
It is.
Oh, it is in litigation now? Okay,
Yeah, so
so, yeah.
that's why we want to keep this to the certain scope of, whether we want to endorse a letter supporting it or not. And it kind of seems like.
So I would just, if I could, I would like to make as a representative from the board on the traffic safety committee, I would like to make the board aware of what the traffic safety committee did at their meeting when Premier Fence came in and talked about it. I'd like to let the board know about that if we could.
That's okay with me.
So, back on November 15th, at the request of the planning board, Premier Fence came in and made a presentation to the Traffic Safety Committee about their proposal to build on a site on Hill Street. After making their presentation to the Traffic Safety Committee, which includes a representative from the Select Board, the Police Department, the Norton Fire Department, the Norton School Department, the Norton Highway Department, and citizens at large, there was some discussion, and then there was a unanimous approval by that committee to, in favor of the project. That's all. I don't want to go any further than that with what we're talking about here.
So I think we should do an executive session to get caught up on this. So our next meeting, we'll have an executive session with that.
So, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Marson.
from what I understand, it's going into litigation a week from tomorrow. And that's why that I think that I was looking to see if we could have some discussion about it, or maybe if we wanted to send a letter to the planning board from the select board about it.
Yeah, I understand that, and I do tend to agree with him that because of the litigation, we really should have the planning board in here to kind of speak to us about it. That's where I'm leaning, so that
Does KP have that, I guess, meeting minutes from Traffic Safety Committee? Anything like that? Showing her support from Traffic Safety Committee?
Not that I know of.
Is that something that we,
I don't think we can take action on it. I think the traffic safety committee would have to present that to them directly. That's something that we shouldn't.
Yeah, and with all due respect, I think the traffic safety committee purview is much different than the planning board. We're looking at it from a different perspective, so I'd want to understand the planning board's perspective before I make any kind of decision.
Yeah, and I mentioned update on that case for our next executive session, but we probably should get an update at all anyway.
Yeah.
Which there shouldn't be many, but. Okay, anything further? Is there any? All right, now we're on to the town manager's report.
All right. So the old town hall building would have been down today, but they blew a hose in the on their machine, so.
So the parking lot's not gonna be ready? Is that what you're saying?
I did send a picture of it to Chris Carmichael, and I told him it's his fault because he condemned it, so. But
I did notice that there was still some drapes hanging on the back of the old select board meeting room in there as well.
And another item, got a call today that New England Rodeo is moving to a new location out of town, so they won't be coming back in February to renew their license.
Okay.
You know when they're
I'm
moving?
sorry.
I don't.
Now, do you know if there's anything going to happen on that property? Have they said what they're doing with that property?
I know a developer has been in that's looking to develop that property into housing. So,
Love to see another rodeo, that was fantastic. I heard
Going to miss those folks.
Yeah. I highly.
and just, what's the date for Founder's Day? You remember, Roger?
June.
I have it, it's right here. It's,
My calendar.
It's not my calendar.
No.
June 28th.
All right.
that'd be June 28th.
I believe it's the 28th of June.
So, just a reminder that we do, the carnival starts on that Thursday.
Right.
And
The carnival will start on the 26th.
so there'll be the carnival.
June.
And then Founder's Day on June 28th as part of the carnival in behind the Yale School. And right now, there's only 3 volunteers on the Founder's Day committee, so if there's anyone in town that wants to help out, if they can really reach out and volunteer, you can reach out to myself or Melissa in Conservation. She could use the help on that. I just wanted to give you an update on we're updating the website, and one of the items on there will be, if you go on to Mansfield's website, and I think Foxborough, you'll see that they have See, Click, Fix on there. It's a program where you can go onto the town website, or you can download the See, Click, Fix app on your phone. And we're going to start with 4 departments in town: highway, water and sewer, board of health, and police. So if you're have an issue with a pothole you want to report, for example, you can take a picture of your phone and send it through the app, See, Click, Fix, and then they can respond back to you through that program too. So it'll be a good way for departments to be alerted to things that people see out there that need to be addressed. And just the update on the Fish and Game from our last meeting. Brett Sherry was kind enough to send back the plan with an area marked where Norton Kayak could operate. His concern is this year, if construction is still going on, obviously they don't want people there during construction. But once the construction's done, from on the north side of the property from Mansfield Ave back beyond the existing house, on that side of the driveway coming in is an area that Norton Kayak could use for parking and also storing kayaks.
Thanks, Mike. And what is the timeline for this construction? You finished?
Yeah, I've got to ask them. They're getting ready to start tearing down trees now. It's amazing how long some of these things take, but it's a driveway and parking area. It shouldn't take that long.
June or July, is
But
it?
I'll reach out and find out from him.
I'm looking at the old town hall as we speak.
It's gonna be ready. Anything else, Mike?
No, thanks.
Anything for the select board's report and mail? Okay, I approve the warrants as written. And I declare under General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, that the purpose of the executive session will be to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with non-union personnel, i.e. the town manager, because discussion of the strategy in open session could compromise the purpose of the executive session, and with the board not to return to open session at the conclusion of the executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Fitch.
I move that the board go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, for the purposes and reasons declared by the chair, and with the board not to return to open session thereafter.
Second.
Okay, Denise,
Aye.
Kevin,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Alec,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. All right, thank you all.